Today we're going to rank every single Evo in the game from worst to best after the addition of the brand new skeleton barrel, and for the fourth consecutive month it's Goblin Draw 34. This thing honestly is mostly plagued by every drill deck having better Evos, such as especially Snowball, Ice Spirit, even Skeletons, Tesla. You can think of weird decks with Valk in it. There's just almost no circumstance where you'd want an Evo drill. The problem also being there's no bonus impact damage, and usually if you put something on the drill to counter the drill, you're going to counter the evolved drill as well. It usually just doesn't do enough to warrant using over something like one of the other drill evolutions. E-Drag is really plagued by its inability to fit in a bunch of different decks. It's in Golem, and Golem gets massacred by everything in the game. It's in E-Golem, and E-Golem gets massacred by a lot of things, which is why you don't see E-Golem on top ladder at all. And really the E-Drag, although it's a powerful evolution in a sense, lightning being good as well as other counters to beat down decks that it's good in being good mean E-Drag's not really gonna have a fun time. Wizard at 32. Wizard is outshined by all of his ranged counterparts. They often provide more value for cheaper cost, and he, you know, while sometimes he can blow up a minion horde if you put it on a minion horde, how often does that really happen? Let's be real. The Wizard also, if you want to play the Evo Wizard, you gotta play the normal Wizard. So having to play the normal Wizard is a freaking indirect nerf in and of itself. At 31 is the Bomber. The Bomber is just really fell off. Like, he's not even that horrible of an Evo. It's just the need for like his chip damage is just, it never really applies anymore. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one meta deck with Evo Bomber in it, because there have been better Evos that have outshined him. He used to be one of our only options, so you'd go to him because he'd be that good cheap option. You could fit in multiple decks, and now almost every deck has their own Evo, so the Bomber just kind of got shoved to the side, even though he didn't really get nerfed that heavy outside of that one nerf that he got, so you can't bounce on the same thing twice. Not that I would know anything about. At 30 is the P.E.K.K.A. This may come back to bite me in the ass because they did not nerf the P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant deck. However, P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant is only really good against people who don't know how to defend it properly or against not top ladder. There's a really big disparity in Goblin Giant and P.E.K.K.A. usage, like here in the top 1000, and as you get up it just turns into like nothing because everybody knows how to deal with it, or everybody runs decks that kind of counter it, which is weird because not everybody's running the same deck. They just fall off really high as the skill level increases, and the P.E.K.K.A. outside of P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant is one of the worst things in the game. It doesn't have any decks it's used in. Even in its bridge spam decks, you're better off using a different variant of bridge spam or using different Evos inside of the P.E.K.K.A. deck itself. At 29 are Barbs. They're fun, they survive Fireball, but most times they end up not getting value, and there's a lot of bait in the meta, there's a lot of cycle in the meta, both in which barbarians just suffer really heavily, so you're not going to see Barbs used too much or having too much success at all outside of very niche decks like the elixir pump bridge spam pump queen deck that's not even that popular right now, and Barbs could probably easily be replaced in that as well. At 28 is the Lumberjack. I feel like this guy never really recovered from having his cycles nerfed to 2, as well as that infinite rage theory. Like, he came out as the most broken thing we've ever seen ever, and then he just regressed to the mean, and apparently the mean was just mediocrity, and it's even worse than mediocrity because the Lumberjack not having to like the insta cycle, like you play him once, means his versatility went down a ton, so now he's only used in this select few decks. And even in like Lumberloon, you'd probably rather have E-Drag and I-Drag as the combo rather than something like Lumberjack, even though it's not always the case. You even see Lumberloon players running Knight over Lumberjack just because he doesn't really provide that much value. Next up is the Goblin Giant. Now the Goblin Giant is quite the same as the P.E.K.K.A., except Goblin Giant is a little more versatile, given that it has like that E-Barb Sparky deck, but that's pretty much it. The evolved Goblin Giant, not extremely strong. I'd say the majority of the success of that deck, the Sparky deck, comes from the Sparky, the E-Barbs, the Rage, the Dagger Duchess even that they started adding. And Goblin Giant's really not too oppressive, although, you know, sometimes you have a situation where you don't have any counters in your hand. That's kind of like obviously if every Evo was looked at, if they have no counters in hand, they're going to be really strong. But the Goblin Giant usually is pretty easy to stop and isn't insanely overpowered outside of that one deck. Next up is the Hunter. The Hunter's weird because the Hunter is a strong Evo, but he got a really fat nerf. And so now he's only used in Royal Giant. You'd see him used in a very few select other decks, and now it's just exclusively Royal Giant. And Royal Giant isn't even that strong right now. So Royal Giant, you know, it's good, it's consistent, it'll get you through ladder, but if we're looking at top ladder statistics, Royal Giant fell off a lot, and the Hunter Evo now doesn't perma-stun things, so there's a little bit of more outplay ability and potential to actually break through an Evo Hunter, where previously it would stall you infinitely, and now it has a chance to switch targets, it has a chance to let a balloon through, for example, and although he's still decently strong, the lack of versatility and the big nerf really hurts him. Next up is the Musketeer. She's decent and she's good in things like Balloon Cycle to snipe buildings and to snipe air counters, but she's really inconsistent. She doesn't open up a ton of potential for other decks outside of things like Balloon Cycle, and so really all these evolutions in the bottom tier are things limited to like one deck. And the Musketeer, while a versatile card, usually is outshined by other Evos because she can't consistently guarantee you value. Sometimes the ability works, sometimes it gets blocked, and oftentimes you're not going to cycle to more than 2 of these a game, even with the fastest cycle decks in the game, because you'd have to get to 9 Musketeers, which is kind of crazy. But, you know, the Musketeer, decent. She's decent. Next up is Mortar. Mortar has fell off a lot due to the current meta. It's not really, I'm not worried about it. I don't think it needs a buff or anything. The Mortar is just something that kind of phased out of the meta. It will be back, and I'm sure some balances, I don't know if it'll be these balances, will get it back in the meta and up until probably the top 15 of an Evo. But the Mortar right now, not in an amazing position. You can still get wins with it, but it's not nearly as impressive as it has been, and that's entirely just based off the meta. I think the card will be fine eventually, and it's probably fine to keep playing if you're already playing it. The Evo Skeletons are up next, and these things, while they used to be the pinnacle of evolutions and they would be impossible to stop, now you can play them on a Goblin Brawler, and sometimes they don't even multiply, which is a little weird. They're very gimmicky. They're like, sometimes they work. The reason they're not dead last is because they're 1 elixir. They always get value, but I don't like looking at it like that. I like looking at it like, if I had a different Evo in my deck, would it get more value? Because obviously for 1 elixir, getting any value is good, right? But when I'm choosing, if I'm using this over an Ice Spirit, or I'm using this over a Tesla, would it be worth the value? And the answer, usually if you play it right, is yes, which means they're not a bottom tier evolution, but they're usually mid because they're typically stopped pretty often, and skeletons aren't really used in those kinds of bait decks where you can bait out logs and bait out zaps. They're just kind of like, if they do something cool, if they don't, well, they're just my normal skeletons. So at 22 is the Ram. Now, interestingly enough, if you sort by rating on Royale API, this is the best Evo in the game in the top 1000, which is just no, but it's really good in bridge spam decks. And the fact that it's only used in like 2 bridge spam decks is why it jacks up its win percentage so high. It's really not that high. It's like 51%. But like in the grand scheme of things, in the whole of Ultimate Champion, this Evo is not that great. But in the bridge spam decks on top ladder, since they are so good, don't know if I'd entirely credit that to the battle ram, but the card is pretty decent, applies a good chunk of pressure, and can win you games. So again, knocked down for the fact that it can only be in like 1 or 2 decks, but it's decently strong and very annoying. At 21, the Firecracker, everybody's favorite Evo to go up against. The thing dies to arrows, which is good. I'm glad it dies to arrows, but Firecracker is really annoying. If you get out cycled, it's also like impossible to stop. But the fact is that most of the time you can counter this card, and even if you're playing a deck like Logbait and you don't have anything for the Firecracker, it's still entirely possible to bridge block, to hit him with a princess or something. It's always possible to outplay the Firecracker, especially even if you have like things like a Fireball. So it's not like the most annoying thing in the game. It's easy enough to kill, and while it does usually get a lot of value, a counterpoint, you're going to be able to outcycle your opponents when playing the Firecracker, so it won't immediately die to arrows every single time or any other spell. So Firecracker gets consistent value, dies consistently easily, not a top tier evolution. At 20 is the Dart Goblin. This thing is really oppressive, but at the same time, he dies fairly easily, and it's usually inconsistent, because while it will be good versus beatdown decks, even if it gets like one little like hit on the thing so the poison activates, it doesn't really get a ton of value in other circumstances. There's decks where you'll get 0 Dark Goblin value the entire game, whether it's getting logged, whether it's getting arrows, it's just being a normal Dark Goblin. The thing dies extremely easily, but also in a very, very, very annoying card to stop. So again, it's kind of like the Firecracker. It's a little better than the Firecracker, but it's pretty much the exact same thing as the Firecracker. Next up is the Tesla. This Evo has gotten better, and to be honest, the buff was pretty good. It's not as nearly as good as the cannon. It's not like, I don't think it's even as good as the Goblin Hut, but the Goblin Hut is really good. The Tesla is just now viable again. Evo Tesla is viable. You'll see it in Drill. You can see it in Expo. You can see it in other decks. Like sometimes people run it in Hog. It's really not... It's not bad. It's not bad. It got a nice little buff, and although it's not the most impressive building in the game, it's pretty balanced. It's a good Evo. Next up is the Diddy Cage. This thing is on par with the Tesla. Its ability to just single-handedly destroy pushes is really nice, but at the same time, it's often pretty easy to deal with the cage. So you'd have to literally usually mess up, not realize your opponent has cage in cycle, and go something into the cage to give him value. You can force your cage to get value in certain circumstances by having like lightning bait or fireball bait. But the problem is you usually just get spelled. Like, people will respond to the Diddy Cage, which means I guess it gets good value considering you always have to respond to it or it's going to destroy your push. But having that like guaranteed stop for things like Hogs, Ram Riders, Golems, it's really nice. It forces your opponent to play differently. So it's a pretty solid evolution, I'd say, even better than the Tesla. Next up is Royal Giant. This thing has fell off in the meta a little bit, but it's still good. It's still a good card. It's still a good evolution. The thing is, the Royal Giant, not insanely strong versus the current pool of decks in the meta. You can have success with it, but there wasn't too much Royal Giant on top ladder last end season. The thing is, though, if you're in mid ladder, you're anywhere not in top ladder, this thing's still going to be great. The Royal Giant, good solid evolution, not amazing top ladder, which drops its rank a little bit from last month, but still pretty solid. Next up is the brand new Skeleton Barrel evolution. Now, the meta hasn't settled yet. So if in a week this is the most broken thing we've ever seen, don't blame me. Don't blame me. This is just my hypothesis. I don't want to say it's going to be like the best thing in the world, and then people are just like, oh, you're just saying that so we can buy the Pass Royale using Code Invader. I don't know if it's going to be that strong. It looks like it's going to be really annoying, but a lot of people have Skeleton Barrel answers. So maybe this makes Bomb Tower good again. I don't know. But hey, Skeleton Barrel, it's going to be good. It's even going to be good on defense too. So I'm interested to see how this does. At 15 is the Zap. I feel like the Zap has fell off a little bit, but it's still one of the most used evos in the game. Really versatile and opens up a lot of possibility for you to beat things like Firecrackers. Let's say you're running Zap and Fireball, and you can only Fireball one Firecracker. Well, now you can use the Evo Zap, so you can get multiple of them off the board. I haven't showered yet. You can kill things like Minion Hordes, like Firecrackers, Dark Goblins, paired with Fireball. You can kill things like Queens, E-Drags. It's really powerful, and it's strong, and it's versatile, but a lot of decks can't really fit a Zap in their deck, especially since it's a really heavy bait meta, so Log is just going to be the go-to option for most decks. Next up is the Mega Knight evolution. I'm just going to predict that the Mega Knight's going to get a lot better with the new Skeleton Barrel evolution. Now, the Mega Knight, he is really easy to play. He's really easy to get victories with in mid-ladder and in the majority of Trophy Road, and I'm literally only putting this guy up here because of how I think he's going to do against the Skeleton Barrel, and because they're introducing the new ranked system. I think this thing is going to be very easy to get you through the new ranked trophies, going to get you to 10k, and I mean, Ultimate Champion, he's probably a bottom 5 Evo, bottom 10 Evo, if that. So I don't know if he's great on top ladder, but for the rest of the game, really good choice. I probably might not like invest in a Mega Knight deck specifically, but if you have the Evo and you want to use boost potions, I'd go ahead and try him out because he's gonna be easy to play. But if you're spending time on the game and you're trying to learn a deck, I wouldn't quite go for the Mega Knight. I just think he's really good for the majority of the game. Next up are Royal Recruits. Just like the Mega Knight, these things aren't even good on top ladder, but I can't make the rankings solely based off top ladder because that doesn't apply to most people. The meta is different, and the Mega Knight is really bad on top ladder. The same thing with the Recruits. They're pretty bad. They're not as bad, but they're pretty bad. The problem is they're so easy to play and so hard to counter unless you really know what you're doing, and they hard counter so many decks that the Recruits are just really good on pretty much everywhere except the top 1000. Recruits, extremely oppressive, very hard to stop. They're extremely easy to play, and their decks are super toxic, don't require much skill, so that's why they rank so high, even though they're not good on top ladder. Next up is the Knight. The Knight evolution, extremely versatile. He also provides a ton of value and versatility in many matchups. He's going to allow you to get better defense, defend things like expos, defend any ranged troop in the game, yeah. And he's going to be able to tank very, very effectively, as well as the Knight is just a really good card. The Knight is a solid card, and the Evo makes him even better. So while you can even play the Knight without the Evo and you'll still be good, the Evo is also extremely good. But if the card and the Evo are really good, that doesn't hurt the Evo ranking, that just makes it higher. So the Knight, really good, really effective, strong, jack of all trades. This is crazy, maybe, but the archers are insanely strong. I think that these things, if they are put in the right deck, will just dominate. And the archers get so much value consistently that it's crazy, because although you can arrow them, you can usually outcycle and not go in for your Evo archers until you get the arrows out. You could even arrows bait, and these things will literally dominate everything. Let's say you're playing Expo and you need to get a building off the board. You need to get something off the board. You go with your Expo, they have to respond to the Expo. Archers quickly before they can react, and the thing is dead, and GG's. Coming up at number 10 is the Goblin Barrel. I would probably rank this thing a little bit higher, but it just got a big nerf to the decoy barrels. This won't go into effect, I think, until like, what, tomorrow or something. The balance changes, whenever they come out, will nerf the Goblin Barrel's second Goblin Barrel decoy damage. But this thing is still really strong. And bait as a whole, not getting too much of a nerf. I get that Ice Spirit's getting a tiny nerf. You can probably just switch to E-Spirit if the Ice Spirit isn't still somehow the best spirit in the game. The Fire Spirit's probably ass. Nobody uses Heal Spirit. But the Law getting nerfed as well, that's probably going to be a little bit of an impact, but that doesn't mean bait's still going to be extremely oppressive, especially with Evo Dark Goblin being really strong. At number 9, the Evo XC. Call me a bit biased, but this thing is the most polarizing Evo of all time. You go up against the Evo XC, the game's over. My Lava Hound dies instantly. The Golem dies instantly. The Elixir Golem dies instantly. Any type of anything with a push, any push at all, gets instantly melted by the Evo XC. And he's in plenty of viable decks. In Hog XC, he's in that Boss Bandit cycled deck. He's in that Giant deck. You can fit him in Graveyard Freeze. He's really versatile, to be honest, which is kind of weird, because that's why I ranked him low originally, because he wasn't versatile. And then we made him versatile. Hallelujah. This thing hard counters every single deck that tries to build a push. And the fact that you'd have to rocket him or lightning arrows him means that everything else in your deck gets extra value. So, because you can't just get away with going for a 9 elixir trade or 9 for 5 and building a push. And no. The thing is crazy. Wall breakers are number 8. The wall breakers are fairly strong. They're really good on defense. I've had so many, like, I'm breaking through this push, and then Evo wall breakers come in and blow it up, which is crazy. They shouldn't be played on defense, but they are. And oftentimes you pair them in decks where you can't physically respond to the wall breakers because of all the other pressure, and you just have to sit there and watch them hit your tower. And usually you can get away with doing that with the normal wall breakers. The problem with these wall breakers is they do like 1500 damage. So you got to sit there and take 1500 damage. Not okay at all. At 7, the Giant Snowball. This card it's really good. It's especially good in Giant Graveyard and Drill to pull things away from the Graveyard and Drill respectively. Or not respectively, doesn't matter what order you put that in. They are really good. They're really good. And the Giant Snowball is insane because it's pretty versatile. It's pretty cheap, and you can cycle to it really easily, and even the normal Snowball gets consistent value. So they make the decks, it's one Giant Snowball. The Giant Snowball makes the decks that they're in stop using. The Giant Snowball makes its decks way better. There you go. At number 6 is Eye Drag. Maybe again I'm a bit biased because I use this card, but I literally went on a game winning streak where 7 of my games were just the Evo Eye Drag winning me the game. This thing is so hard to stop. It is impossible unless you have a reset card and you have good air damage. Maybe the Spirit Empress will make it a little bit weaker, but this card is broken. The Evo Eye Drag, if you don't have an E-Wiz or something, or you don't have freeze and zap and God knows what else, it will melt literally everything. It will melt everything. And the only thing slowing down the Eye Drag is it's a bit hard to get to 3 Eye Drags. You can't just cycle the Eye Drag, really. You have to cycle it usually for a certain card. So if you can get to the cycle, it's broken. But if you can't, bats. We've got the bats at number 5. The bats are really, really strong. I keep saying this. Super underrated. I feel like most people don't see how good the bats are. Great in mortar bait. Great in mortar bait. In Mega Knight bait. Holy shit. Great in Mega Knight bait. They're great in a ton of other decks. They are really strong because if you don't zap them immediately, you're going to have to arrow them. And that makes the other bait cards in your deck. You usually play the bats with bait cards. They make them stronger because they can't get spelled instantly. And if they make it to the tower, these things do insane damage and counter tons of stuff they wouldn't normally counter because they don't die to normal things like the normal bats do. They survive Ice Spirit. They survive like a tower shot. The bats are really strong. They're really strong, and I guarantee you have success with them even if you think they're really weak. At number 4 is the Ice Spirit. The Ice Spirit is strong, and the Ice Spirit is getting a nerf, but it's a 0.1 second freeze nerf. The Spirit is still the best Spirit in the game. It's still the best cycle Evo in the game, and you can fit it in every cycle deck, and it makes your defense so much easier. The Ice Spirit is really good, so now imagine having 2 of them. The Ice Spirit just dominates. It's easy to cycle to. You get like 3-4 of them a game. The Ice Spirits are just always going to get you value, and they always get good value when they do. So it's tummy rumbling. It's always good to play it. At number 3 is the Valkyrie. This thing has so much offensive potential, defensive potential, has more health. It just dominates, man. It defends against all sorts of pushes, single-handedly beats E-Golem, other beatdown decks. It's going to bail you out. It's going to pull things back, stall Hog Riders, stall everything. The Valkyrie is so good. I would definitely recommend upgrading the Valkyrie if you can, because she can fit in any deck and makes every single deck better. Number 2 is the Witch. Even after her nerf, she is still insanely strong and is single-handedly making Graveyard really strong. Witch plus Graveyard, one of the greatest combos we've seen in a very long time, and she does, it's like Prime Nick at Night Molt. This card is insane. She gives you consistent value, and while the Graveyard is being killed, she cannot be killed. Like, she will literally heal infinitely off the Graveyard, which makes her insanely strong. And she's only 1 cycle, so all you have to do is play 1 Witch, and then you get your Evo Witch, and your opponents are going to be forced to deal with way more than they usually would have to, making this card extremely strong. And where would we be if Cannon wasn't the best Evo in the game? I'm not a Cannon glazer. This card is just insane. It's really good, consistent value, can single-handedly wipe out swarms, is going to get you value every time you play it, can get you out of bad situations, acts as another spell. Cannon's also extremely strong. It works on offense. You can take a tower with it. Maybe I am a Cannon glazer. I don't know.